Formative assessment strategies and techniques. What is formative assessment? It refers to a wide variety of methods that teachers use to conduct in-process evaluations of student comprehension, learning needs, and academic progress during a lesson, unit, or course. It helps teachers identify concepts that students are struggling to understand, skills they are having difficulty acquiring, or learning standards they have not yet achieved, so that adjustments can be made to lessons, instructional techniques, and academic support. Before we proceed, let us first fill out some parts of the following chart. You will write what you know about formative assessment under the Know column, and write what you want to know about formative assessment under the Want column. Under Learn column will be filled out after this session. Let's begin.
Now you can pause this slide while working on it.
Are you done? Let's continue. Formative assessment are commonly contrasted with 1. Summative assessment, which are used to evaluate student learning, progress, and achievement at the conclusion of a specific instructional period, usually at the end of a project, unit, course, semester, program, or school year. In other words, formative assessments are for learning, while summative assessments are of learning. What is the general role of formative assessment? To collect detailed information that can be used to improve instruction and student learning while it's happening. What makes an assessment formative is not the design of a test, technique, or self-evaluation per se, but the way it is used to inform in-process teaching and learning modifications. When the cook tastes the soup, that's formative assessment. When the customer tastes the soup, that's summative assessment, according to Paul Black. However, that the distinction between formative and summative is often fuzzy in practice, and educators may hold divergent interpretations of and opinions on the subject. What is the difference between summative assessment and formative assessment? 1. Summative assessment are deliberately set apart from instruction, while formative assessment are integrated into the teaching and learning process. For example, formative assessment technique could be as simple as a teacher asking students to raise their hands if they feel they have understood a newly introduced concept, or it could be as sophisticated as having students complete a self-assessment of their own writing, typically using a rubric outlining their criteria that the teacher then reviews and comments on. Formative assessments help teachers identify learning needs and problems. In many cases, the assessments also help students develop a stronger understanding of their own academic strengths and weaknesses. When students know what they do well and what they need to work harder on, it can help them take greater responsibility over their own learning and academic progress. Assessment technique or process could, in theory, be used for either formative or summative purposes. Many summative assessments are unsuitable for formative purposes because they do not provide useful feedback. For example, standardized test scores may not be available to teachers for months after their students take the test. So, the results can be used to modify lessons or teaching and better prepare students. Or, the assessments may not be specific or fine-grained enough to give teachers and students the detailed information they need to improve. These following are a few representative examples of formative assessments. 1. Questions that teachers pose to individual students and groups of students during the learning process to determine what specific concepts or skills they may be having trouble with. A wide variety of intentional questioning strategies may be employed, such as phrasing questions in specific ways to elicit more useful responses. 2. Specific, detailed, and constructive feedback that teachers provide on student work, such as journal entries, essays, worksheets, research papers, projects, and graded quizzes, lab results, or works of art, design, and performance. The feedback may be used to revise or improve a work product. For example, feedback, goal, action, result. 3. Self-assessments that ask students to think about their own learning process, to reflect on what they do well or struggle with, and to articulate what they have learned or still need to learn to meet course expectations or learning standards. 5 great formative assessment strategies that never miss. 1. Analysis of student work. A great deal of information can be learned from students' homework, tests, and quizzes, especially if the students are required to explain their thinking. When teachers take the time to analyze student work, they gain knowledge about a student's current knowledge, attitudes, and skills about the subject matter, strengths, weaknesses, and learning styles, need for further or special assistance. The analysis of students' classroom work allows teachers to modify their instruction so that they will be more effective in the future. Remote and distance options. Arrange before your semester or term begins to educate students about new responsibilities for collaborating with you on assessment. Establish scheduled checkpoints for learners to regularly submit work and where to safely do it. 2. Strategic questioning strategies. Questioning strategies may be used with individuals, small groups, or the entire class. Effective formative assessment strategies involve asking students to answer well thought out, high-order questions such as why and how. Higher-order questions require more in-depth thinking from the students and help the teacher discern the level and extent of the student's understanding. You can find plenty of question prompts on our critical thinking cheat sheet. Another strategic questioning strategy used in formative assessment is to give the students a wait time to respond. Studies have found that most students become more engaged in classroom dialogue when higher-order questions are combined with a waiting period. Remote and distance options. Employ social media like Twitter to engage students in polls, quizzes, strategic questioning periods, and more. You can also try these exceptional apps for building questions and quizzes. 3. Think, pair, share. This is one of the many formative assessment strategies that is simple for teachers to use. The instructor asks a question and students write down their answers. Students are then placed in pairs to discuss their responses. Remote and distance options. The Wabi Sabi app offers real-time chatting and collaboration features for students to share answers and comment one-on-one. Coupled with Zoom conferencing, the interaction for this activity can be seamless and fun over a remote connection. 4. Exit or admit tickets. A simple but effective formative assessment is the exit ticket. Exit tickets are small pieces of paper or index cards that students deposit as they leave the classroom. Students are required to write down an accurate interpretation of the main idea behind the lesson taught that day, and then provide more detail about the topic. Teachers review the responses and gain insight as to which students have fully learned the concept and those that are still struggling. The information obtained can be used to plan a whole group or partial group lesson to reteach the concept. Admit tickets are done at the very beginning of the class. Students may respond to questions about homework or in the lesson taught the day before. Remote and distance options. Depending on what program you are using, you can have tickets submitted over a class Facebook page, or you can even have them emailed directly to you. 5. 1-minute papers. 1-minute papers are usually done at the end of the day. Students in groups or individually are asked to answer a brief question in writing. The papers are collected and analyzed by the instructor to gain awareness of the student's understanding. 1-minute papers have been found to be more effective when done on a frequent basis. Typical questions posed by teachers center around: main point, most surprising concept, questions not answered, most confusing area of the topic, what question from the topic might appear on the next test. Remote and distance options. The considerations for the exit admit tickets can also apply here. Without formative assessments, the first indication that a student doesn't grasp the material is when they fail a quiz or a test. Effective and engaging formative assessment strategies like this can take failure out of the classroom. Now, you may fill out the whole chart and pass your work to your principal as your output in this session. Know, want, and learned. What you want to know, what you want to learn, and then what you learned in this topic. Thank you for watching and listening.